The Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's central atrium gleamed with the polished perfection of a 1,000-year-old institution. Holographic displays projected intricate star maps and historical diplomatic achievements, their soft blue light reflecting off the smooth crystal surfaces of the main reception area. Instructor Zara Lynn, a senior luminary training coordinator, adjusted her translucent communication implant and checked the incoming recruit manifest for the 100th time. Today was different. Today marked the first integration of human recruits into the Academy's prestigious program. The luminary were known for their delicate physiology and precision-based approach to conflict resolution. Their species had spent millennia developing communication technologies that could diffuse tensions before they ever became physical confrontations. Zara Lynn herself had authored 3 groundbreaking treatises on interspecies diplomatic negotiations, each one a masterpiece of nuanced language and careful mediation, which made the incoming human recruits a complete enigma. The first transport began its descent sequence, its external design nothing like the sleek, efficient vessels typically used by Academy recruits. This ship looked more like a reinforced cargo carrier, with additional plating that seemed almost primitive compared to the advanced energy shielding technology of other galactic species. A series of mechanical clicks preceded the transport's entry port opening. Instead of the carefully choreographed disembarkation typical of most recruit arrivals, the humans seemed to tumble out with a chaotic energy that immediately set the reception staff on edge. 5 recruits emerged, each carrying what appeared to be multiple pieces of equipment that looked more suited to industrial construction than military training. Their clothing defied the standard Academy uniform regulations in ways that made the administrative staff twitch. Patches and modifications covered what might have once been a standard-issue jacket, and each recruit wore a collection of seemingly random but purposeful accessories. "Standard gear check," muttered a human with short-cropped hair and a patch depicting what looked like an aggressive avian predator. "Make sure nothing came loose during transit." The group moved with a synchronicity that didn't match their apparently casual approach. Each member seemed to be performing a subtle check on the other's equipment, a dance of mutual support that was both efficient and completely informal. Nearby, a group of Corax recruits watched in stunned silence. Their own arrival had been a carefully orchestrated process of individual precision, each movement calculated and rehearsed. The humans, by contrast, looked like they were preparing for some kind of impromptu expedition, rather than entering the most prestigious training institution in the known galaxy. "Excuse me," interrupted Zara Lynn, her translation implant humming softly. "Welcome to the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy. I'll be coordinating your initial intake and orientation." The human who seemed to be the group's informal leader turned, and Zara Lynn found herself momentarily taken aback. Human eyes were remarkably expressive, capable of communicating volumes without a single verbal utterance. This recruit's gaze swept the entire reception area with a combination of curiosity and analytical assessment that felt more like a comprehensive scan than a casual look. "Thanks," the recruit responded. "We're ready for processing. Any specific protocols we should know about?" The question was simple, but something in its delivery suggested the human was already considering multiple potential scenarios. Zara Lynn realized she was being subtly evaluated even as she was meant to be evaluating the recruits. A nearby silicate administrative assistant began to process their documentation, its crystalline form shifting with each data transfer. The assistant's normally smooth movements became slightly erratic as it tried to categorize the human's equipment, which seemed to defy standard classification protocols. One of the other human recruits was casually disassembling what appeared to be a complex communication device, performing maintenance with a set of tools that looked like they had been modified multiple times. The ease with which they worked suggested these were not standard-issue tools, but personalized instruments developed through extensive practical experience. "Your equipment requires special classification," the silicate assistant announced, its vocal modulation carrying a hint of electronic confusion. "Several items do not match standard galactic regulatory specifications." The human recruits exchanged knowing glances, a silent communication that spoke of shared experiences and mutual understanding. Zara Lynn realized, with a mixture of fascination and mild terror, that the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy was about to experience something entirely unprecedented. The Advanced Training Simulation Chamber represented the pinnacle of galactic technological achievement. Constructed from adaptive quantum reactive materials, the room could instantaneously transform into any conceivable environmental scenario. Holographic projectors capable of generating molecular-level detail stood ready to create worlds within worlds, testing recruit capabilities across infinite potential mission parameters. Senior Instructor Krelvex watched from the observation platform, his multifaceted Qorax eyes flickering with a combination of anticipation and professional skepticism. The human recruits were about to undergo the Academy's most challenging initial assessment, the adaptive response scenario. Most recruit teams approached the simulation with methodical caution. Previous groups had spent hours analyzing potential routes, discussing theoretical approaches, and developing carefully constructed strategies. The standard protocol involved minimal risk, maximum information gathering, and a conservative approach to problem solving. The human team was different from the moment they entered the simulation chamber. "Okay, team," said the group's informal leader. "Standard collaborative scan. Let's see what we're working with." Where other species would have initiated a slow, careful environmental analysis, the humans moved with a fluid dynamism that immediately set the observation team on edge. They spread out simultaneously, each recruit covering a different aspect of the simulated environment, but maintaining an impossible level of communication and coordination. The simulation began as a standard planetary exploration scenario. A distant research outpost had gone silent, and the team needed to investigate potential causes while maintaining maximum safety protocols. Previous recruit teams typically spent hours preparing, running multiple diagnostic scans, and developing extensive contingency plans. The human team saw it differently. "Structural integrity looks compromised in Sector 3, called out one recruit, her voice calm and matter-of-fact. "Possible atmospheric contamination, but equipment readings suggest localized impact." Another recruit was already modifying what appeared to be a standard communication device, adding components from what looked like a personal toolkit. The seamless integration suggested these were not standard issue modifications, but adaptations developed through practical experience. Krelvex leaned forward, his translation implant working overtime to process the rapid-fire communication between the human team members. Their language was a mix of technical precision and intuitive shorthand, a communication style that defied standard interspecies protocol. The simulation's artificial intelligence began introducing complications. Environmental hazards materialized, toxic atmospheric shifts, structural instabilities, potential hostile presence indicators. Each challenge was designed to test recruit adaptability, typically causing most teams to freeze or retreat into careful planning. The human team treated these challenges like an intricate puzzle. "Wind shear increasing in Quadrant 2, announced one recruit. "Sarah, adjust your stabilization module. Mark, prepare secondary communication backup." Their movements became a dance of mutual support and instantaneous decision-making. Where other species would debate, these humans anticipated. Where standard protocols suggested caution, they found innovative solutions. A massive structural collapse event triggered in the simulation, a scenario that had previously caused total mission failure for every recruit team in Academy history. The holographic environment began to disintegrate, massive structural elements seemingly crushing the research outpost. Most teams would have immediately signaled retreat. The human team saw an opportunity. Using the structural collapse as cover, the team leader muttered, "We can mask our approach and gather critical information." They didn't just survive the simulation. They reimagined it. Krelvex watched in stunned silence as the human recruits not only navigated the impossible scenario, but began extracting critical mission data from what should have been a total failure point. Their communication was a symphony of technical precision and intuitive understanding, each team member moving with a synchronicity that suggested years of shared experience. The simulation's artificial intelligence began to show signs of confusion. Its predictive models, developed over centuries of galactic military training scenarios, simply could not compute the humans' approach. Where it expected retreat, they advanced. Where it anticipated failure, they found success. By the simulation's conclusion, the human team had not only completed the mission, but had done so with a level of efficiency that made the previous record-holding teams look like amateur trainees. Senior instructor Krelvex turned to his colleague, a senior luminary training coordinator. "We may have significantly underestimated these humans," he said, his voice a mixture of professional respect and barely concealed concern. The observation room fell silent, the holographic displays still flickering with the remnants of a mission that had just rewritten every known training protocol in the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's extensive history. The weapons familiarization chamber of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy represented the pinnacle of technological advancement. Adaptive learning surfaces lined the walls, capable of generating perfect holographic representations of every known weapon in the galactic database. Quantum-sensitive targeting systems could simulate combat scenarios with microscopic precision, allowing recruits to understand the most intricate details of interspecies weaponry. Most species approached weapons training with clinical detachment. The Corax studied ballistic trajectories like mathematical equations. The Luminary viewed weapons as complex communication tools designed to prevent further conflict. The Silicate Collective treated armaments as extensions of computational logic. The human recruits were different. They entered the chamber with a combination of professional focus and something else entirely, a sense of mechanical appreciation that bordered on artistry. Where other species saw tools of potential destruction, the humans saw intricate systems of engineering, each weapon a complex puzzle waiting to be understood. Standard breakdown. The team leader instructed, and the group moved with a synchronicity that caught the attention of senior instructor Vexterra, a veteran weapons specialist from the Corax Research Division. Unlike previous recruit groups, the humans didn't rely solely on the chamber's holographic interfaces. They produced personal tools, modified, personalized implements that seemed to be an extension of their individual approaches to technical understanding. One recruit was already disassembling a standard-issue energy projection weapon, her movements revealing an intimacy with the device that suggested years of practical experience. "Interesting modification points," muttered one recruit, pointing out microscopic adjustments to the weapon's internal cooling system. The standard thermal regulation can be optimized with a 1/4 millimeter adjustment to the primary conduit. The weapon's holographic display began to shift, showing the precise thermal improvements the recruit had suggested. Instructor Vexterra's translation implant picked up the technical discussion, revealing a depth of understanding that went far beyond standard academy training protocols. The chamber's adaptive systems began to introduce increasingly complex weapon scenarios. Most recruit teams approached these challenges with careful, measured responses. The human team treated each scenario like an intricate problem-solving exercise. A holographic representation of a multi-environmental combat weapon materialized. It was a complex device designed to function across multiple planetary conditions: extreme heat, zero gravity, high-pressure atmospheres. Previous recruit teams had spent hours studying its theoretical applications. The human recruits dismantled it completely within minutes. "Notice the quantum stabilization matrix," one recruit explained to another, her fingers moving with surgical precision. "The current design creates a 0.0003-second lag in atmospheric pressure compensation." The other recruit nodded, already sketching potential modifications on a flexible data surface. Instructor Vexterra watched in growing fascination. The humans weren't just learning about weapons. They were reimagining them. The chamber's artificial intelligence began introducing increasingly complex scenarios. Weapon systems that had previously challenged entire research teams became puzzles to be solved. The humans approached each challenge with a combination of technical expertise and creative problem-solving that defied standard classification. A particularly challenging multi-environmental combat system materialized, a weapon designed to function across extreme planetary conditions. It was a device that had taken the Galactic Engineering Consortium decades to develop, with fail-safes and complexity levels that had previously stumped even the most advanced recruit teams. The human team saw an opportunity for improvement. "Look at the quantum stabilization coupling," one recruit suggested. "We could reduce energy consumption by 12.7% with a slight reconfiguration of the primary molecular interface." The weapon's holographic representation shifted, revealing the precise improvements the recruit had suggested. The chamber's artificial intelligence seemed to pause, its complex algorithms working to process the unexpected modification. By the training session's conclusion, the human recruits had not only mastered the weapons systems, but had suggested improvements that would likely be studied by multiple galactic research institutions. Instructor Vextera turned to her colleague, a senior luminary training coordinator. "We may need to completely redesign our entire weapons understanding curriculum," she said, her voice a mixture of professional respect and barely concealed concern. The weapons familiarization chamber fell silent, the holographic displays still flickering with the remnants of a training session that had just challenged every known understanding of technological adaptation in the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's extensive history. The advanced physical training complex of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy stood as a testament to interspecies adaptability. Constructed to accommodate the wildly different physiological requirements of multiple galactic species, the facility could instantaneously reconfigure its environment. Gravity modulators could simulate conditions from microscopic planetary bodies to massive high-density worlds. Atmospheric generators could recreate the most challenging environmental conditions known to galactic explorers. Most species approached physical training with carefully calculated precision. The luminary focused on neural pathway optimization. The Corax developed intricate movement algorithms that maximized efficiency while minimizing energy expenditure. The Silicate Collective treated physical training as a complex computational challenge. The human recruits transformed the entire concept of physical training into something entirely unexpected. As they entered the training complex, the facility's adaptive systems began scanning their physiological parameters. Instructor Krelvex watched from the observation platform, his multifaceted eyes already widening with anticipation. The first challenge materialized. A multi-environmental endurance course designed to test the absolute limits of physical and mental adaptation. Previous recruit teams had approached such challenges with careful, measured movements. Elaborate preparation would typically consume hours of strategic planning. The human team saw it differently. Team support formation called out their informal leader, and the group began to move with a synchronicity that defied individual capability. The course began with a gravity simulation that would crush most biological entities. Atmospheric pressure increased to levels that had previously caused total system failure for recruit teams. Environmental hazards emerge. Electromagnetic disruptions, thermal fluctuations, gravitational anomalies that would tear apart most physiological structures. Where other species would hesitate, the humans found opportunity. One recruit noticed a structural weakness in the course's environmental generator. Instead of avoiding the challenge, they used the instability as a potential advantage, redirecting environmental energy to create a more efficient movement path. Their communication was a symphony of mutual support. Unlike other species that emphasized individual performance, these humans moved as a collective organism. When one recruit showed signs of physical strain, the others adjusted their approach, providing support without breaking their overall mission parameters. The course's artificial intelligence began introducing increasingly complex challenges. Terrain shifted from high-density mineral landscapes to zero-gravity environments. Atmospheric conditions changed with millisecond precision. Each transition would typically cause most recruit teams to pause, reassess, and potentially fail. The human team treated each challenge like an intricate dance. Thermal regulation at 87%, one recruit called out. Mark, adjust your cooling module. Sarah, prepare secondary support formation. Their movements became a perfect blend of individual skill and collective intelligence. They didn't just navigate the course. They reimagined it. A particularly challenging segment involved navigating a series of structural collapses while maintaining team cohesion. Previous recruit teams had always failed this section, the environmental challenges proving too complex for coordinated movement. The humans saw it as an opportunity for creative problem-solving. Instead of fighting the environmental challenges, they began to use the course's own mechanisms against it. A falling structural element became a potential climbing point. A thermal disruption became a method of redirecting energy. Instructor Krelvex found himself leaning forward, his professional detachment giving way to genuine fascination. The team's communication was a marvel of efficiency. Technical precision merged with intuitive understanding. They weren't just completing the course. They were learning from it, adapting in real time with a level of flexibility that defied standard training protocols. As the final segment approached, the course's artificial intelligence began introducing its most challenging environmental configurations. Gravitational stress increased to levels that would liquefy most biological structures. Atmospheric composition became a constantly shifting challenge. The human recruits remained focused, their movements a perfect balance between individual capability and collective support. By the course's conclusion, they had not only completed every challenge, but had done so with a level of efficiency that made the previous record-holding teams look like novice trainees. Instructor Krelvex turned to his colleague, a senior luminary training coordinator. We may need to completely redesign our understanding of physical adaptation, he said, his voice a mixture of professional respect and barely concealed concern. The training complex fell silent, its adaptive surfaces still flickering with the remnants of a training session that had just rewritten every known understanding of physical capability in the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's extensive history. The psychological evaluation chamber of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy represented the most advanced neural assessment technology in known space. Quantum resonance neural scanners could map psychological responses with molecular-level precision. Adaptive empathy matrices could translate emotional states across hundreds of different biological and synthetic consciousness types. Most species approached psychological evaluation as a precise clinical process. The luminary viewed it as a delicate exploration of neural pathways. The Corax treated psychological assessment as a complex mathematical problem. The Silicate Collective approached mental evaluation as a computational challenge of infinite complexity. The human recruits were about to redefine everything. Dr. Zara Lynn, the senior psychological evaluation specialist, adjusted her most advanced neural scanning equipment. Her species was renowned for their ability to detect the most subtle psychological nuances. She had personally evaluated thousands of recruits from hundreds of different species. Nothing prepared her for the human team. The evaluation began with standard neural mapping protocols. Most recruit teams showed predictable response patterns, carefully controlled emotional states, measured reactions, a clear delineation between professional performance and internal psychological landscape. The humans presented a completely different paradigm. Their neural scans revealed a complexity that immediately challenged the Academy's most advanced assessment algorithms. Where other species showed clear, defined psychological boundaries, the human team displayed an impossible level of neural flexibility. Interesting, muttered Dr. Zara Lynn, her translation implant struggling to process the neural data. Simultaneous multiple cognitive processing channels. The psychological challenge generator began introducing increasingly complex scenarios. Each simulation was designed to test the absolute limits of psychological adaptation. Previous recruit teams had always shown clear stress indicators, predictable emotional responses, measurable psychological strain. The human team transformed each challenge into an opportunity for collective problem-solving. A scenario materialized that would typically cause total psychological breakdown. A simulated mission failure combined with multiple team member casualties, environmental hostility, and seemingly impossible survival parameters. Previous teams had always collapsed under such comprehensive psychological stress. The humans saw it differently. Their neural pathways began to show something unprecedented. Instead of individual stress responses, they demonstrated a collective psychological adaptation mechanism. When one team member showed signs of psychological strain, the others immediately adjusted, providing support that went beyond standard communication protocols. Thermal regulation dropping. One recruit called out, "Marcus, adjust your environmental support module. Team, prepare secondary support formation." Their communication was a marvel of psychological synchronicity. Technical precision merged with emotional support in a way that defied standard interspecies understanding. The evaluation chamber's artificial intelligence began introducing more complex psychological challenges. Scenarios that would typically cause total cognitive dissonance became intricate problem-solving exercises. The humans didn't just survive the psychological challenges, they learned from them. Dr. Zara Lynn found herself leaning closer to the neural scanning displays. The human recruits were displaying a level of psychological adaptation that challenged everything her species understood about cognitive flexibility. A particularly challenging scenario involved a simulated total mission failure with multiple layers of psychological complexity. Previous recruit teams had always shown immediate psychological collapse. The human team began to develop innovative solution pathways that seemed to emerge from their collective cognitive process. Notice the neural synchronization, one recruit explained to another. "We can redistribute cognitive load across the team's collective neural network." The other recruit nodded, their neural pathways already adapting to the suggested approach. The psychological evaluation chamber systems began to show signs of confusion. Its most advanced predictive algorithms simply could not compute the human's approach to cognitive challenges. By the evaluation's conclusion, the human team had not only survived the most complex psychological challenges, but had done so with a level of collective intelligence that made previous record-holding teams look like rudimentary cognitive units. Dr. Zara Lynn turned to her colleague, a senior Corax psychological research coordinator. "We may need to completely rewrite our understanding of collective consciousness," she said, her voice a mixture of professional fascination and barely concealed concern. The psychological evaluation chamber fell silent, its quantum resonance neural scanners still flickering with the remnants of an assessment that had just challenged every known understanding of psychological adaptation in the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's extensive history. The cultural exchange chamber of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy was a marvel of interspecies communication technology. Adaptive translation matrices lined the walls, capable of interpreting not just verbal language, but subtle nuances of biochemical communication, neural emotional signals, and quantum-level consciousness expressions. Most species approached cultural exchange with careful diplomatic precision. The luminary viewed such sessions as delicate negotiations of mutual understanding. The Corax treated cultural sharing as a complex information transfer protocol. The Silicate Collective saw cultural exchange as a computational comparison of societal algorithms. The human recruits were about to transform the entire concept. Senior instructor Krelvex watched from the observation platform, his multifaceted eyes already anticipating something extraordinary. The chamber's advanced systems had processed thousands of cultural exchange sessions across hundreds of galactic civilizations. Nothing prepared them for the human perspective. As the session began, the other recruit teams from various species prepared their carefully crafted cultural presentations. The luminary had prepared a holographic representation of their societal development, a pristine display of diplomatic achievements. The Corax had developed a mathematical model of their species' evolutionary progress. The Silicate Collective presented a comprehensive computational analysis of their collective consciousness. The human team approached the presentation differently. "Okay, team," their informal leader said, "standard cultural overview approach." What followed was anything but standard. Instead of a clinical presentation, the humans began sharing stories. Not diplomatic achievements or scientific milestones, but personal narratives that revealed something far more complex about their species. One recruit began describing a concept they called improvisation, a cultural practice of creating solutions in real time, without predetermined plans. The translation matrices struggled to capture the full complexity of the concept. It was more than a communication strategy. It was a fundamental approach to existence. On my home continent, one recruit explained, "We had this thing called road trip. Essentially, you take a vehicle and travel without a specific destination, adapting to whatever challenges you encountered." The other species in the chamber looked confused. The luminaries' diplomatic algorithms couldn't process a journey without a specific diplomatic objective. The Corax's computational models found the concept of purposeless movement incomprehensible. Another recruit shared a story about something called community support. It wasn't just a social strategy, but a complex system of mutual assistance that went beyond logical self-preservation. They described scenarios where individuals would risk personal safety to support complete strangers, a concept that challenged every known galactic understanding of individual and collective survival protocols. The Cultural Exchange Chamber's artificial intelligence began to show signs of computational stress. Its most advanced interpretation algorithms were struggling to categorize the human's cultural presentation. A luminary recruit raised a delicate communication tendril. But how do you maintain societal stability without predetermined conflict resolution protocols? The human team exchanged knowing glances. "We don't," one recruit explained. "We adapt. We solve problems as they emerge." The concept was revolutionary. Most galactic species developed intricate, predetermined systems for conflict resolution. The humans presented something entirely different, a cultural approach that saw challenges as opportunities for creative problem-solving. They shared stories of planetary challenges, environmental disruptions, social conflicts, technological limitations. Where other species would have developed complex preventative systems, humans seem to thrive on immediate creative adaptation. "Our greatest strength," one recruit explained, "is our ability to find unexpected solutions." The translation matrices worked overtime, struggling to capture the full depth of human cultural complexity. It wasn't just a communication style. It was an entire approach to existence that defied standard galactic understanding. Stories of individual and collective resilience emerge. Tales of overcoming seemingly impossible challenges became a masterclass in adaptive thinking. The other species listened with a mixture of confusion, fascination, and growing respect. By the session's conclusion, the Cultural Exchange Chamber had been transformed. The humans hadn't just shared their culture, they had challenged every known understanding of societal development, communication, and collective problem-solving. Instructor Krelvex turned to his colleague, a senior luminary cultural specialist. "We may need to completely reimagine our understanding of cultural adaptation," he said, his voice a mixture of professional respect and barely concealed concern. The Cultural Exchange Chamber fell silent, its advanced translation matrices still processing the remnants of a presentation that had just rewritten every known understanding of cultural complexity in the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's extensive history. The final examination chamber of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy represented the pinnacle of interstellar training technology. A massive adaptive environment generator stood ready to create the most complex mission scenarios ever conceived. Quantum probability matrices could generate infinite potential challenge configurations designed to test the absolute limits of recruit capabilities. Most species approached the final examination with clinical precision. The luminary developed elaborate diplomatic resolution strategies. The Corax calculated every potential movement with mathematical perfection. The Silicate Collective treated the examination as a complex computational problem to be solved with absolute logical efficiency. The human recruits were about to redefine the entire concept of mission readiness. Senior Instructor Vexterra watched from the primary observation platform, her multispectral sensory arrays already calibrated to maximum sensitivity. The chamber's artificial intelligence had been specifically modified to create the most challenging scenario in Academy history, a mission that had defeated every previous recruit team. The scenario materialized with brutal complexity. A critical research outpost on the edge of a highly unstable planetary system had gone completely dark. Multiple prior recovery attempts had failed catastrophically. The mission parameters included extreme environmental challenges, potential hostile presence, complete communication blackout, and a narrow survival window. Previous recruit teams had always failed at the initial assessment stage. The scenario was designed to be fundamentally impossible. The human team saw an opportunity. Standard team configuration, their informal leader called out. The words seemed simple, but the movement that followed was anything but standard. Where other teams would have spent hours analyzing potential approaches, the humans began moving with an intuitive synchronicity that defied standard mission protocols. They didn't just analyze the scenario, they began adapting to it in real time. The planetary environment began to shift. Gravitational anomalies created impossible navigation challenges. Atmospheric conditions changed with millisecond precision. Quantum interference patterns disrupted standard communication and navigation technologies. Most teams would have immediately signaled mission abort. The human recruits saw each challenge as a potential solution. Quantum interference in communication band. One recruit called out, "We can use the interference pattern to create an alternative communication method." Another recruit was already modifying their equipment, transforming standard communication devices into adaptive signal generators that could work around the environmental challenges. The mission scenario's artificial intelligence began introducing increasingly complex challenges. Environmental conditions that would liquefy most technological systems became potential navigation points. Communication blackouts became opportunities for creative signal manipulation. Their communication was a marvel of collective intelligence. Technical precision merged with intuitive understanding. They didn't just navigate the challenges, they reimagined the entire mission parameters. A particularly challenging segment involved navigating through a region of extreme gravitational distortion. Previous teams had always failed, their navigation systems completely overwhelmed by the complex spatial dynamics. The humans treated it like an intricate puzzle. Gravitational shear at 87%, one recruit called out. "Marcus, adjust your navigation compensation module. Team, prepare secondary approach vector." Their movements became a perfect blend of individual skill and collective intelligence. They weren't just completing the mission. They were learning from it, adapting in real time with a level of flexibility that defied standard mission protocols. The final stage of the mission involved a seemingly impossible rescue scenario. A research team needed extraction from a location with multiple layers of environmental and technological interference. Previous teams had always failed at this stage, the challenges proving too complex for coordinated extraction. The human team saw it as an opportunity for creative problem-solving. Instead of fighting the environmental challenges, they began to use the mission's own complexity against itself. A communication blackout became a method of stealth approach. Gravitational interference became a potential navigation advantage. Instructor Vexterra found herself leaning forward, her professional detachment giving way to genuine fascination. As the mission's final moments approached, the scenario's artificial intelligence began introducing its most challenging configurations. Survival probability calculations dropped to near zero for most mission approaches. The human recruits remained focused, their movements a perfect balance between individual capability and collective support. By the mission's conclusion, they had not only completed every challenge, but had done so with a level of efficiency that made the previous record-holding teams look like novice trainees. Instructor Vexterra turned to her colleague, a senior luminary mission specialist. "We may need to completely redesign our understanding of mission adaptability," she said, her voice a mixture of professional respect and barely concealed concern. The examination chamber fell silent, its adaptive surfaces still flickering with the remnants of a mission that had just rewritten every known understanding of recruit capabilities in the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy's extensive history. The graduation ceremony of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy was typically a carefully choreographed event of diplomatic precision. Holographic displays would showcase each species' achievements, with meticulously calculated presentations of recruit capabilities. Luminary translation matrices would ensure every nuanced achievement was perfectly communicated. Corax computational displays would render statistical analyses of recruit performance. This year would be different. The central hall buzzed with an unprecedented level of anticipation. Senior administrators from multiple galactic governing bodies had arrived, drawn by the unprecedented reports about the human recruit team. Whispers circulated through the advanced communication networks that something extraordinary had occurred. Senior Coordinator Krelvex stood at the podium, his multifaceted eyes scanning the assembled dignitaries. The standard graduation protocol would need significant modification. Distinguished representatives, he began, his translation implant working to capture the full complexity of his communication. We are gathered to recognize the achievements of this cycle's recruit class. The human team sat together, their posture a perfect balance of professional attention and collective support. Where other species' recruit teams maintained strict individual separation, the humans moved with an impossible level of synchronicity. The performance reports began to display. Each holographic projection told a story that challenged every known understanding of recruit training. The weapons familiarization results showed not just mastery, but fundamental improvements to existing technological systems. The physical training assessments revealed capabilities that defied standard physiological limitations. The psychological evaluations demonstrated a level of collective intelligence that seemed to rewrite the fundamental understanding of consciousness. Dr. Zara Lin, the senior psychological specialist, stepped forward to provide her assessment. The human recruit team, she announced, has demonstrated a level of adaptive capability that fundamentally challenges our existing understanding of interspecies potential. Her words carried a weight that went beyond standard diplomatic language. The assembled representatives from multiple galactic species leaned forward, their communication tendrils and sensory arrays fully engaged. The human team's mission performance results appeared on the central display. Where previous recruit teams had failed catastrophically, these humans had not only completed every challenge, but had done so with a level of efficiency that made previous records look like preliminary training exercises. One by one, the senior instructors provided their assessments. The weapons specialist described how the human recruits had suggested modifications to technological systems that would likely revolutionize multiple fields of galactic research. The physical training coordinator explained how their approach to collective movement challenged everything known about interspecies collaboration. But it was the cultural specialist's report that truly captured the essence of the human achievement. They do not see challenges, the specialist explained. They see opportunities for creative problem solving. Their approach is not about avoiding failure, but about transforming potential limitations into pathways for success. The human team remained focused, their collective presence a testament to everything that had been described. As the formal recognition began, something unprecedented occurred. Instead of the standard individual achievement recognition, the human team moved as a single unit. When one recruit was called forward, the others subtly adjusted their positioning, providing support that went beyond physical proximity. The assembled representatives from multiple galactic species found themselves witnessing something truly extraordinary. This was not just a graduation. This was a fundamental redefinition of interspecies potential. Senior Coordinator Krelvex made a decision that would be discussed for generations. Instead of the standard individual commendations, he called the entire human team forward as a collective unit. You have not just completed training, he announced, his translation implant working to capture the full depth of the moment. You have redefined our understanding of what is possible. The human team's response was typical of everything that had come before. They didn't celebrate individually. They supported one another, their collective achievement speaking louder than any individual recognition. As the ceremony concluded, multiple galactic research institutions were already preparing proposals. The human recruits had done more than graduate. They had opened an entirely new chapter in interspecies understanding. The Galactic Peacekeeping Academy would never be the same. In the quiet moments after the ceremony, a simple note was added to the official records. It was short, but captured everything that had transpired. Humanity, not just a species, but a fundamental force of adaptive potential.